And we're live. Welcome to the Zeall Show, episode 38, where all the shows are unfiltered, uncensored, and literally the only line that I'm also saying, I'm also not reading it properly. But that's so there's a lot to talk about today. And on LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, sorry, not LinkedIn, X, there was a lot going on. Some of the main news that really caught my attention was the $600 million that the US federal government has been giving aid to the Australian universities. This is, to me, totally outrageous. Outrageous in a sense where you can get grants from other countries, but you should not depend on it. Because it's not the money that actually made me like, wow, what the heck happened? They wanted an emergency meeting to talk to Trump to see if they can solve the issue to get the money back. This is totally wrong. Australian universities, no wonder, cannot be in the top 20 in terms of research. It's because they're too reliant on government funding. So Australia has this, so to give you context, there's this so-called association, government association called the Group of Eight. Let me see if I can bring it up to show you guys. Okay, so there's this thing for Group of Eight, Australia. Okay, so it's the top universities in Australia, as they call it. So no matter if you're not at the top and you are crappy in this list, you still stay in this list. You'll still be in a way called the cartel of eight, right? So University of Melbourne, ANU, University of Sydney, UNSW, which that's my alma mater. But the biggest problem we have here is that unlike US where you have the Ivy Leagues, you call the Ivy League, but there isn't really an official association that cartels them together. It's just really a name, right? But with this, Australia also has the big four, the banks. When you do this, you're basically you're setting a real association for them. They take things for granted, especially the $600 million could have been put to. We don't know what use it is for the $600 million, but I always had this question as to why Australian universities, being also an English-speaking one, why the standards compared to UK, US, and Canada cannot be at the top, right? Because we had a huge argument with some of the Aussies yesterday when I said that the Aussie universities overall are quite shitty, as I use the word, compared to US and UK and Canada counterparts. And they were arguing arguing with me that I am wrong, saying that the QS rankings say that the universities are at the top 20. I'll give you I'll explain the content now and explain more of the context as we go along. Because QS, so there's multiple rankings, I'm pretty sure many of you know. So there's one called the QS rankings, right? There's one called the Higher Times. And there's another one. Let's ask Grok. Grok will know. Of the top few sources. What are the top few sources? Grok, what are the top few sources for global university rankings? Right, so QS is one, Times Higher is one, and there's the ARU is ARWU is another one. Right? So this is another one. And I was always very curious as to why, in terms of the top 20 universities in the AA, or even in the top 30, Australian universities are not here. If you go to Times Higher Education, you go to the rankings, and then you go to global rankings, Australia is also not here, right? And then you go to QS rankings, view full list, and then you see Australia in the list. Like, I'm sure a lot of you, I'm pretty sure the stereotype is very similar. If you need to rank the countries, English-speaking countries of which universities are at the top, you definitely will rank US, UK, Canada, and then Australia, right? So I did more in-depth research as to find out why this is the case. And I realized QS rankings has a very heavy bias for sustainability. Whatever that means, universities are supposed to be research-based. It's supposed to come up with very strong theories, like theories that can help impact the world. That's key. And I realized QS is the only one that does this for sustainability. And Australia ranks high on that. I'm like, what does that even help? Right? Sustainability doesn't help. And even worse, even they're ranked high on that, they're still not at the top 20. Okay? And then if you look at higher times, Australia is actually in the, Grok will know. Can you give how many universities in Australia are in the top 100 in the higher times education list rankings? I'll get to this very soon. I just want to get the content out. Right, so 6. But if you look at their rankings, yes, top 100, but they are at the bottom of the top 100. Okay, and the higher times higher education rankings is very heavily based on research. The main news that really caught my attention and really shocked me was when they had the British, the US, and Australia had a contract, an agreement of some sort to come up with the AUKUS. For some of you that don't know, AUKUS is the, I would call it the partnership between UK, US, and Australia for helping Australia build the submarines, right? So Scott Morrison, the previous Prime Minister, was very huge on that. Like, we need to build our submarines, get our national defense, get the Australian national defense up. And then 6 months to a year later, Australia then says that they don't have the capability to build the submarines. I can understand why. If your universities are not there, your capability to actually build military resources, it's all linked. It's not there, right? And you can see by the rankings, Australia research is really lacking. All right, so what I'm saying is, linking back to the $600 million funds, why I'm so unhappy with that is that Australia has been taking federal funding and their position for granted, that they are not moving up the value chain. And as an English-speaking country, you should be doing that, right? You should be competing with your fellow counterparts in UK, Canada, and the US. But unfortunately, for research, Australia is ranked very low. And I can also see that because that stereotype stayed with me since university, right? I studied in Australia. My family's finances were only okay, so I could only study there. I couldn't go overseas. Only when I graduated that I started getting more financial resources, that I wanted to fill my, academic gap. So I went over to Columbia in New York to do a CIB, the Certificate in Business Education. This is in 2012, so 8 years after I graduated. And then during that course, I can already see the difference, even though it's not a full MBA. The teachers had very strong experience in the private sector. And some of them were actually directly from the private sector, right? Whereas, at least from the time that I studied, the universities in Australia, all the lecturers that I had back then were all full-time lecturers. Okay, none of them that I know were actually having very strong credentials in the private sector to be inside the university. Unless I'm proven wrong now. I know University of New South Wales has been changing a lot, especially now instead of talking about research, which I think they should still focus on, but now they're talking about UNSW having the largest entrepreneurial network and the richest per capita in terms of the number of startups, people coming up, the valuation, and so on. But that's only hiding the fact that your research doesn't make it to the top. And you can see, and then UNSW is not even at the top. It's right there. So they're masking it by saying it's the top entrepreneurial university. I think it's just a facade. And when I talked on, I'll call it constructive debates on X, I realized some of the Aussies don't even care. They say that Anson, get a gripe, university degrees, we're already at the top 100, we don't really care. For me, it's disappointing. This is why you can't even build your own submarines, right? Because your knowledge capability is not even there. So I'm actually happy that President Trump is taking the $600 billion away, and that now adding to the fact that Australia is becoming quite anti-immigration recently, it will reach the point of crisis for universities. And from then, when you're in a crisis, when you need to change things would happen for the better, right? So I treat this as a blessing in disguise. Revenues would start plummeting. Chinese are already not coming to universities in Australia. They're going elsewhere. They don't want other countries except Southeast Asia. They're very good with. That's why I'm based in Singapore. Southeast Asia is happy with everyone, especially with the narrative of ASEAN centrality, meaning that I don't care where you're from, as long as it benefits ASEAN, I'm with you. That's why I love being in this part of the world. Yeah. So now that the revenues are going to plummet, maybe only after 3 to 5 years that they'll start to realize that this is a crisis. I mean, even for the meeting with President Trump, it took over 2 months for them to announce this sort of thing. Like they're not treating it seriously. Australia, maybe it's not that not treating seriously. Australia has a very, I'm respectful of that Australia has a very laid back sort of working culture. Like when I go to the shopping centers, especially in Westfield, when it's 4:59 p.m., we get kicked out of the shops. All right, it's only a 9 to 5 culture. So for the people that want to relax, Australia is a great place. But if you want to level up, even in your military and all that, I think the mindset and the culture has to change. Especially when the military also said, I remember there was one of the documentaries or one of the news articles saying that if Australia needs to go to war with China, they're really not prepared. And I'm just sounding out the signal, sounding out the truth. This is one of the reasons why, okay? Your entrepreneurs, when building up in Australia, after they built up the startups, they will go to the US. They won't stay in Australia, right? And your universities don't have the traction to make people stay to do research. I'm not sure how this will change. So a crisis like now, $600 million funding taken away, plus the anti-immigration, anti-foreign students, it will come to a crisis. And it's just popcorn for me. I'll get more popcorn to see what happens there. But to me, this is a blessing in disguise. Okay, so that was enough of my rambling on Australian universities. But my position is clear. Aussie universities need to level up. Otherwise, no, it can't compete. Especially with these rankings, with the loss in revenue, I'm not sure. We just need to wait for a miracle to happen right now. Okay, so let's go back to the main thing. So I have just one message for everyone, that I have started a leadership lessons with Grok on Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm finding Grok very, very smart. I'll give you one example. So as we're getting old, a lot of people are the same. All right, so I have this thing called acid reflux, meaning if I have too much carbs, not too much carbs, if I have too much sugar, too much oil, then the acid rushes up, and then I have this sore throat thing. It's already solving it. It's already good. I have this one chat that I keep asking Grok, is this food good? Is this good food okay? For some reason, it remembers. I'm getting confused now. Like this particular chat that I consult Grok on the different foods I eat, not only it remembers, it also asks you, are you feeling better now? I know you're taking medicine here and there. It actually remembers to ask these questions. But when trying to do the content, sometimes it gets the instructions wrong. But anyway, in terms of overall, Grok is really getting very smart. I use that to even track what sorts of foods, and I've learned a lot recently from there. And I also did last week, I did a alpha test on the leadership lessons with Grok, with the first lesson on human-centered leadership. I was amazed. I am now treating it as my co-host now. All right, so I am gonna sort of push it here for the Zeall show, where, as you know, I have an AI agent that tells me what I should be talking about today. I haven't even gotten to the main topic yet, but I'll get there. And when links come up and I need to read, sometimes I don't have enough time. I don't want to be silent on the talk show right now, so I'm actually going to use Grok to actually explain what is this about. It's similar to the show that what was the show on RT that Max Kaiser and Stacy did? The Max Kaiser show. Same. Max Kaiser reacts to the news that Stacy does, or Stacy gives him. So Grok is the one that helps me gives me the summary of the news, which we'll go through it together, and then I will give my inputs into it as well. Okay. So there was a few pieces of news that my AI agent told me that I should talk about. Let me bring it up here. Okay, so just 1 second. So there is this piece of news. There's this one. It asked me to talk about this. Asked me to talk about this. Let me remove the other links. Asked me to talk about this. This as well. So usually I've asked the AI agent to prepare 6 interesting pieces of news or links for me to talk about. All right, so here it is. All right, so if there's news that I already know, then I won't, I will just, oh, I think I've been too loud here. I will just react to it. So what is this about? Oh yes, I heard on the news that there was foreign ministers from China, South Korea, and Japan are a meeting. I'm sure Beijing is trying to solve, the geopolitical tension within East Asia, especially South China Sea. I mean, it's good that they meet, China, South Korea, and Japan, but if you know the history in this part of the world, it is very complex. It's not like the Western culture where I finish beating you up, we can restart the relationship again, and we become friends. Asia is not like that. Unfortunately, even some of my folks, my And my extended family still remembers the horror of World War II. And it also doesn't help where the Chinese side of things, where they teach in the kids' textbooks in school, they still will talk a lot about the horrors of World War II, how Japan attacked China. Japan also attacked Korea as well. So I think to some extent, South Korea is the same. And especially South Korea also has its feud with Japan on the term comfort woman, right? And till this day, unlike Germany, where they actually apologized for what the Nazis have done, and they teaching kids in school to what the Nazis have done and shouldn't be like that. Japan till this day has not apologized for World War II. So the tension is still there, right? So how are they going to solve this? Is the new bloc going to be created? I'm not sure, because South Korea and Japan also has very heavy links with the US. And many of the South Korean companies and Japanese companies are now investing heavily into the US right now, right? So these meetings are good. It can diffuse tensions, but I don't think a new Asian bloc will be created. Even if there was, the trust level isn't there. The mutual trust isn't there. If you compare to, for example, the ASEAN, right? So some of you may not know, ASEAN is basically the short form. I keep saying ASEAN. It's not because I said Asian wrong. ASEAN is actually the abbreviated acronym for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Okay, so for the ones that don't know, it has 10 main countries inside the list. Is it 10? Or is it 11 now? Let me get the full list. You know what? Just ask Grok. Grok is faster. Okay, so I have this thing here, co-show host. Okay. All right, so let me put can I know the members of the ASEAN Association? Yep, so these are the 10. Oh, so the other one, the East Timor, now called Timor-Leste, is not in yet. That one I didn't know. So these are the 10 countries, right? And it has, the members have been here for quite a while. And not only that, mutual trust between the members are there, right? And that's why ASEAN has been able to survive for so long, even though it can even be a bit more closer in terms of not just economic partnership. I think can do it in a way much more closer, like the European Union. But even the European Union is having problems right now. But the theme of ASEAN centrality is very amazing, because it shows that it's now getting all the members to just, as long as ASEAN grows, whoever wants to work with us, we don't care. We don't care about the conflict outside of that. We only care about ASEAN, right? And they don't really have that feud between each other compared to the bloc that this article is saying. I think it's just making news. I don't really think that these three countries can actually get along. Japan, South Korea, and Japan. China's, Japan, and South Korea can really get along. It's a good way just to, update each other. Don't get into a war. Stay safe. As I mentioned, even in small teams, in a company, communication is key. Right? So these three countries is just communicating with each other just to make sure that things don't get out of hand. Right? So next. Okay, what is this? Oh, Investors Daily. I think it's fine. I can go in. I'm human. Okay, what is this piece of news? Bitcoin prices rise after tariff comments. Okay, so what was the comment? What is this article about? So I am now putting the articles into Grok and let it do its own research. So there was a comment. Okay. So what was the actual comment made? Let's see if it knows, even though I'm very vague on this. So it doesn't really say, okay. I was very vague anyway. So what was the actual comment here? So it's reciprocal. Meanwhile, Trump on Friday modified his tariff stance that there will be flexibility on the so-called reciprocal tariffs that he expected to impose on April 2nd. That's fine. We know about that, April 2nd. He doesn't want to do April 1st because, you know, April Fools. So I'm not sure what the actual comment was. If you guys watching the show and if you know what the comment was, you can put it in the chat. I will be looking at the chat comments. Right. Just making sure that the chat is on. Yeah, my chat comments if you see it. But anyway, I don't know what extra what happened. Sometimes I don't really think. I know a lot of people think that the Bitcoin prices and news are linked. I really think news is a laggard sort of indicator. It's just a human instinct when a price action happens on crypto, especially Bitcoin. I will go through that you ask, oh my God, what happened? Was there news linking to it? Sometimes there isn't a piece of news that links to it. I mean, we also had MicroStrategy. Now it's called Strategy, not MicroStrategy. Buying up a lot of Bitcoin on Monday, but this Monday, but the previous Mondays didn't really see any effect, right? So there isn't a real link to price and news. So it's saying after the tariff comments, it goes up. Oh, okay, I understand now. Because Trump said there may be flexibility, because, oh, I see. So there's basically saying if the tariffs are strong, okay, that if the tariff stance is very strong, the normal narrative for tariffs is that it will increase inflation, right? Because tariffs increase the prices of consumer goods and all of that on either side. So if you have reciprocal tariffs, it basically adds to the pricing pressure of goods and services in the US. But now that President Trump says that there will be flexibility, then Bitcoin is happier per se, right? But again, I had multiple videos talking about that the tariffs right now is really a place for Trump to get the leaders to come together to talk. Or if they don't want to talk, there's either two ways. You can fight with the US, or you invest heavily with the US, inside the US, right? So for example, UAE did something very crazy, very amazing. They're going to invest over $1 trillion over 10 years into the US. That's $100 billion a year, okay? And that is quite a lot compared to the other companies. And obviously, unlike other countries like South Korea or any of the manufacturing companies, UAE will be providing the investments rather than the know-how of the manufacturing capabilities, right? So, but it's amazing. It's $100 billion a year. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of flexibility that President Trump is talking about. It's usually very late for many of the country leaders to actually go to Trump and start talking. They may start talking on April 1st or 31st of March and try to get them to extend. It's very normal, right? So even when I worked in as a head of compliance of a company here, there's a deadline by the regulators. Usually what happens is there will be one of the members in the association that I'm chairing will then tell MAS, our regulator here, hey, can we have a extension, right? It usually happens. But I am seeing Trump will not give an extension, but it will be masked on by saying that we will have some tariffs on you, your reciprocal tariffs, but these tariffs are on hold. Some of them will be in already. Okay, but yeah. So if the leaders go and talk to Trump, that's the key. They actually just want more investments into the U.S. Right? Okay, so that's what this means. What is this? Democrats propose more bad Bitcoin and crypto regulation. Why? So why are they doing this? Certain Democrats have made the case that the U.S. federal government should follow New York State's lead when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto regulation. This is a bad idea. What are they trying to do? Right? Brian Armstrong already has said that, and not only them, Chainalysis, many of the companies have already shown the global regulators that the money laundering amounts in crypto compared to fiat is less than 1%. Right? And I have been in meetings at the Financial Action Task Force that when Chainalysis or Elliptic showed them the information, one of the regulators were like, I still don't buy that. Like there was data in front of them, and they still say, I don't buy that. Okay, but yeah, so now we understand because there is a Operation Choke Point, and I hope the FATF delegation from the US, there may be some reshuffling, but it really doesn't make sense now that you're adding it, because you also had Kim Jong-un recently stealing $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum, and now they've converted it to Bitcoin, and now they are the third largest. They have the third largest Bitcoin reserves as a government. What it shows is that the AML-CFT regimes today are adding more cost to all the companies, yet at the same time, the big fish that they're supposed to catch could not be caught. And at the same, but the smaller fish, like the smaller everyday retail person, adds to the cost. Because no matter how you're doing your know your customer due diligence, you still do it the same way as the big fish and the small fish at the beginning to go and decide whether this customer is high risk or low risk, right? And every little customer we need to do it, does it, but at the same time, the main aim is to catch money laundering cases. And then with the Korean, not the Korean case, the Kim Jong-un case, no one has been able to catch it. Like there is something not right. Copy and pasting from the banking sector is definitely not working. I really think if we want to catch bad guys, bad actors, we really need the regulators need to come and really sit down with the industry again. Okay, again, and the banks this time round, because in terms of experience of AML, CTF, and we all CFT, and at the same time, it's less than 1%. We don't need banks to actually come in to really talk. Okay, in my view, the industry that have the licensed crypto companies already have the maturity to actually come up with a right regime to counter all this. Right, so, but again, I've been saying this since 2019 that the private and public sector needs to come together, but in a way to help the industry to solve these problems, the 1% only, right? But you must talk in a way, discuss in a way that you're helping the industry rather than the company, which is hard because every time at these meetings, it's usually the employees that go there to talk, all right? And they want to obviously get recognized in the company. One of the meetings, I also saw Trust, which is one of the travel rule companies, just basically one of these entities that try to help with this anti-money laundering, but it is heavily influenced under Coinbase, right? And then the same person there writes Coinbase and trust this entity is supposed to be impartial. At least they should put it out there, it's impartial. But no, it's on the Coinbase. So conflicts of interest are also very big inside the meeting. So do I have a solution on how to solve this? Actually, no. But the fundamental basis on how to solve this is really to communicate in an impartial way. But I am not seeing that at the meetings until today as well, till today. So yeah, but more regulation doesn't help. It doesn't solve the big cases at all. So I totally disagree with this. Crypto stocks soar as Bitcoin tech sector gain. We know that. If we look at the Bitcoin prices now, whoops. All right. I mean, you guys know my email is fine. It's all spam. I don't fully read it all the time. Okay. So anyway, Bitcoin prices. Here. All right. Let's look at the daily chart. Yes. So we can see that things have been going up. It went to a low of 76,000-ish. If we need to put a line here, we're not really out of the woods yet, right? If it pushes up, that's great, right? But we're really not out of the woods. If it forms a higher bottom, that'll be great. But right now, we're still in a downtrend, right? So again, this is not financial advice. It's for my own observation. And volatility is not, this is the volatility for Bitcoin options. We're not at the point where things will change, meaning that are we actually still going up through the uptrend? I'm not sure, because what will usually happen, let me just get rid of this. What will usually happen is if it does strike through here or go up here, you will see volatility spike up. And when volatility spikes up at this point, then that's great. That means something new is coming up. But right now, it's still just continuing the trend. That's why the volatility of the Bitcoin options is still staying the same. It's still going down. So yeah, it's okay. This is only a piece of news. What's this? Shipping markets will be reshaped by geopolitics in 2025. Okay, let's ask Grok. What is this about? Can you just give me a concise summary on what I could talk about on the show? Okay, so what is this about for the show? You could talk about. The piece dives into how geopolitics will steer the shipping industry this year, focusing on the Red Sea situation. So what is the Red Sea situation? A fragile ceasefire in Gaza has unraveled. Houthi attacks after Israel. So, so what is the Red Sea situation? Again, concise responses, please. So here's a quick note. The Red Sea is a hotspot due to, okay. So it's all about the attacks. Okay. So let's look at the map. Maps.google.com. Okay, let me go and see here first. Just 1 second. All right. Red Sea situation. So Yemen is undergoing attacks by the US right now, which is, I see, very scary. All the ships have to pass through here. So if Yemen is not stable, it affects the sea routes, right? So I think that's what it's talking about. It's a wild card for shipping costs and yes, that's why things may increase. The security on the shipping ports definitely will be affected. Pirates may start coming out. Tug of war between shorter routes and freight rate pressures, good or bad industry. So yes, the rates will definitely be affected, as mentioned. U.S. military moves could mean for global trade flows. So so basically we need to know what's the latest news on the Houthi attacks. Houthis attacks. So as you can see, I mentioned many times in my show, knowledge, there's no point showing off that you have knowledge of something. If you don't know, rather ask AI. Knowledge is basically, it costs zero now, okay? There's no point being the top. But responses or reactions like what I'm doing, that's the only thing left as humans that we have value for, because now AI has everything, right? So to me, Grok is basically my co-host in all these things that we're discussing right now. So let's get up to speak on the Houthi attacks. Houthi restarted attacks on shipping after a Gaza ceasefire. Okay, so that's why. No one talked about this. I didn't hear about the news, right? The only thing that we saw on X was the attacks that President Trump did on Yemen. So they were actually, after the ceasefire, they were actually attacking shipping, targeting Israel-linked vessels over A blockages. So if you're firing on vessels in the sea, obviously it affects all the other vessels around that as well. So since March, they launched multiple strikes, including 18 missiles and a drone on the USS Truman. Wow. So they actually attacked US ships through the US, though the US says none has hit. Okay, so that means some of the news within these web pages, no, I'm not going to deep dive into that. The US has been hitting back hard with airstrikes across Yemen. So I'm pretty sure it won't be just that. I don't think none has been hit. Otherwise, US will not react, right? Now US is very US centric, right? So something must have happened. Okay, so Houthis' offensive capabilities are reported crumbling, with Red Sea attacks dropping off after recent US strikes that killed dozens. So still the leader vows to keep US ships if the aggression continues. So the fight, and so literally Red Sea is very volatile right now at this part of the world, right? But where else can they go? I'm pretty sure nowhere else. There's just no one's going to go through South Africa. That's why Middle East is very important. If this is unstable, it affects everyone, because all the ships will then have to go through here to Singapore, which, as far as Singapore is very important to be politically stable, and it is a blessing in disguise that there is an ASEAN here to keep things stable, right? Even though that we have a lot of problems, tensions in the South China Sea, at least this part is stable. We can still have the shipping route in this particular region safe, right? But this part is very volatile and it's actually not good. I mean, for example, if it was Bahrain or Qatar here that has the problems, then it will be less of a problem for shipping. But this is a very important route from Gulf of Eden, Red Sea to the Gulf of Eden. Yeah, so let's see where that goes. It's hope everything can be solved ASAP. Okay, so what is this? What is a stable coin? The new turning a geopolitical or political. What is a stable coin? The new tech turning geopolitics upside down. So I did videos on this before. I will share some of the links. For the ones I'm pretty sure that I was watching my show know what stable coins are. I always had a stance where I really don't like CBDCs. CBDCs intrude privacy. There's only one CBDC that I can say I support and it's the one backed by Switzerland. It's backed by Switzerland, where they focus on the money supply rather than the surveillance of the wallets. They have found a way to make sure that the central bank, even though when they issue the coins, they say they will not track and won't track and cannot track the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. But CBDCs today, most of them intrudes privacy, and because any government, if the intent is ill, meaning that the intent is for surveillance, and if it's mandated for a country to use CBDCs, and if they deem your wallet or you being either national security or not a good actor, your use on your wallet can be constrained by them, right? So this, to me, is not good. But stablecoins, on the other hand, are issued by the private sector, and it's up to the consumer to see if they want to opt in to use it, right? And at the same time, it's not the central bank using it, it's not the central bank issuing it, and so there isn't a conflict of interest there. And not only that, US really likes the idea of stablecoins because the distribution of USD around the world would be amplified with multiple issuers of stablecoins. Right, so it's become a geopolitical thing. I can see why, because President Trump really wants to keep the use of US dollars around the world and making it as liquid as possible. And stablecoins will be one of the tools for that. So I'll put up the video for that. I'll put the link again. All right, so that is it for today. Oh, wow, we talked for over 50 minutes. So we talked quite a number of things. Talked about stablecoins today. Talked about I'm going to use Grok more often. Knowledge to me is zero from a human perspective. I rather ask Grok what's it about. It's through this that I understand what the Houthis were up to and why the Red Sea is really a volatile place now. We talked about the new Asian bloc, China, South Korea, Japan. I don't think they'll form anything. There's just too much history between the three countries. Talked about the tariff comments. Now I fully understood. It's because of the flexibility that President Trump was saying. We have to see how that is. Is this a link? I don't really see it as a link, but that's news. I don't agree with what Democrats have said. Adding more crypto regulation, it actually doesn't help unless we can find a way to solve how to block big fish, like the case of the hack at Bybit, how to stop cases like that going to bad actors. Otherwise, more regulation just adds more cost and it will kill the industry. It really doesn't help. We talked about this. We looked at the prices and we looked at the shipping routes today, how things will change. Again, I think this is just news. We just have to monitor the attacks between Yemen and how the US is dealing with Yemen right now. So that's it for today. I have a very special guest, two special guests coming in on Wednesday, US time, 8:30 p.m. US time, and then which is my time, Thursday, 9:30 a.m. So let me add it here. Yes, this one. So I'll be co-hosting with Catherine, my good friend and fellow board member at the association. She runs the DeFi governance radio collaboration with me. And we have Arthur, one of a very important, prominent person in the DeFi VC space. I think Defiance Capital. He's here. And Wayne Tang. Again, most of this stuff on the DeFi governance show, it's by Catherine. So if you have any questions, please do talk to her. If you can tag her at Kathy J. I will actually just put it here. Kathy. Please contact her for any questions on the show on the next the Zeall Show DeFi Governance Radio Collab. Yeah. So, okay, great. So, looking forward to it. So, that's it for my show today. For the ones in the US, have a great evening. For the ones in Asia, have a great day ahead. See you at the next Zeall Show.